As a dad whose wife has given birth, I know a thing or two about how to tell if your wife's given birth. So to help you out, here are 5 signs that your wife just gave birth to a baby. Number 1, there's a naked crying baby in the room that wasn't there before. Number 2, your wife just spent the last 14 hours screaming the hardest she ever has in her life. Well, that either means she just gave birth or she just spent all day on Batman the Ride at Six Flags. 4, a team of nurses is standing in a semicircle around your wife's hospital bed and congratulating her. This one kinda speaks for itself. And finally, number 5, someone comes in the room and asks you what name you want to give to the baby that your wife just gave birth to.
So I was mentioning Arthur and Stephanie before you guys got on that this was the most enjoyable amount of prep that I've done for a podcast interview because you're both comedians, actors, and all I got to do was watch funny reels and clips, and it was great. So welcome to our podcast. We're excited to talk all things ABC parenting with you, but I'm also curious as to how you came to this and how you started working together. So, Stephanie, I want to start with you first.
Sure.
As a Mad Men fan, I recognized you immediately. I was so excited to meet you. But how did you get started doing parenting satire on YouTube, going from that to this?
Yeah, from such a serious show. That's a great question. So, Mad Men was on, sad to say, but it's been over for 10 years.
Oh my
I
God,
know.
really?
Yeah.
I feel so old.
Same. So a lot's happened since then. One of the biggest things being I became a mom. Yeah. So I I didn't meet Arthur, slid into my DMs
Whoa.
about
So risque there.
about 3 years ago. He was watching Mad Men. And he messaged me saying he'd been rewatching it with his wife and went to his page then, Instagram, and was like, oh my God, he just had a baby. So I knew this guy was legit. I didn't have to worry about anything.
Not a creepy, crusty old man who was sliding into your DMs.
It wasn't your typical slide in.
No.
Yeah. So, and we had a bunch of mutual friends, and he's very funny and had a real job. So I was like, okay. So I responded and I was like, thank you so much. And congrats on your baby. Hope you're hanging in there. And I didn't hear from him. We didn't talk for another year. We really didn't know each other. And then he had reached out after that, a year after that, saying, hey, I have this idea for a web series. Would you, and every episode starts with a question, would you be down to do one of the questions? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That won't take too much of my time. And I did. I sent it to him. And maybe 2-3 days later, he came back and was like, would you want to co-host this with me? I think I'm missing maybe where I came into your mind, but he sent me a couple episodes that he had written and I thought they were very funny. We Zoomed, we actually got to chat. And then I think 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to New York and I was thrilled because I had yet to be away from son. He'd been alive for 2 years and that was the first time I got to go be away from him, and it was to work. So it was perfect timing.
It's wonderful. I love so many things you said in there from I'm going to come to you too for backstory, Arthur. the whole thing about being away from your son and he's 2 years old and this is the first time that you've been away from him, that's so common among moms, not used to being away from kids. How old is your son now?
He's 3.
3.
So this was also all just post-pandemic.
It's very recent.
When it's post-pandemic, I don't know about you guys, but I was that video they had of what an introvert did during the pandemic, enjoying their book, and then the extrovert that's clawing at the windows. I was like, anything to get out of here, please.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember, Arthur, you asked me when you picked me up from the airport why I said yes to this. And I was, I'm pretty sure I was just I wanted to get away from my kid. I wanted to get out of my house.
It sounded fun.
It's that strange, that weird contradiction that I feel every parent has where a lot of times you're with your kid for such a long amount of time that you're like, I just need a break.
Yeah.
And then you're on a break from them, and all you could do is think about how much you miss them. Like I remember the first time my wife and I had a date after my son Theo was born. We spent the entire time just looking at photos of him and talking about him.
But yet you were so excited to go on that date and to get away.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Wi-Fi. As soon as you got far enough away from the house and the Wi-Fi went away, as soon as you got far enough away that you knew that he couldn't cry or grab you or drool on you, you were like, oh, wait, we miss him.
Yes.
Well, it's
exactly.
so interesting. I think this is a different perception among different people too, because I'm a huge fan of Armchair Expert, and I was listening to Dax Shepard talk about this and his dynamic with his wife Kristen Bell, and he says he's so excited to get away from the kids, and then he misses them the entire time, whereas she finds it hard to leave the kids, but then when she's gone, she's like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And I have to say, I did identify more with her experience than his experience, because oh my gosh, the hardest part is, I think, leaving. But once you're gone, you're like, this is nice. I'll call and talk to them, and then I remember who I am again without my kids.
Yeah, it really feels like a certain kind of a particular type of freedom that I never had before I was a parent, where like, okay, I have like 2 hours to just soak everything up, whatever that even means. I don't even know what that means. But just to really appreciate every moment, like, oh my God, yes, this is great. Freedom.
You
learn
how to do things on 3 times speed. So much. You're like, I can get so much done in an hour.
Yes, exactly.
So, Arthur, as I was preparing for this, and first of all, I watched your Subway guy, and that made me laugh. And I was like, looking at Subway.
Subway idiot?
Yeah. Subway idiot.
Yeah.
And then, as I was watching Subway Idiot, the first thought that's in my mind is oh my gosh, filming this must be really hard, because the cameraman goes away with the train, and then you have to wait and you have to come back, and I don't know. Those were my logistics things.
Maybe just to give your listeners a little bit of a idea of what it is.
Please.
It's maybe the dumbest thing I've ever done, which is that it's a friend of mine on an actual New York subway train. Getting shots of me running alongside the train, on the subway platform.
Mm-hmm.
But each of these videos has about 30 or 40 different shots. So it's me running after the train trying to catch up to it. And yes, those shoots take a couple of days to do, because you're just standing there all day waiting for a train and hoping that you don't get arrested.
Oh my God.
So how did you initially come up with the idea for ABC Parenting? What sparked it?
Yes. Okay. I'm so sorry. Hold on one second.
That's real life. Who do you got there?
I got this little dog Sid right here. Our little
it's always the dogs. Our dogs are always he's so cute. My dog's currently asleep on my couch, so it's just a matter of time before a doorbell rings or something like that. Yeah.
Well, so my wife was pregnant, and I started to do YouTube searches for how to be a parent. How do you be a dad? How do you be a dad? What do you do? I didn't know what I was doing.
Where's the Cliff Notes version?
Yes, exactly. And it turns out, as you guys know, that there are an infinite number of parenting resources online. Mm-hmm. Many of which give really good advice, some of which have advice that I might describe as crazy. I was like, I think that I would like to make a comedy version of one of these, because I am no parenting expert myself. I mean, I think I love being a parent. I love my son so much, and I try to learn about it. But I think what I'm really good at least maybe the only thing I think I might be good at, is to make funny stuff. So I was like, this is a thing that is near and dear to me right now. And there is literally an infinite number of parenting topics out there, covering every age range that your child could be. So it wasn't that hard to think of ideas. And then the more I was building it out, I was like, I'll try to make this kind of feel like an actual parenting channel, with the ultimate goal being, I want people to laugh at this, but I also want some people to look it up and think that it's a real parenting channel. And it turns out that, at least on TikTok, that is what happens.
Oh my gosh, God. TikTok has all the crazies. I mean, not crazies. TikTok, we love you, but still, it seems like out of all the platforms, the TikTok people are the ones who will come at you most aggressively versus like the YouTube and the Instagram if they think
Yes.
something is wrong or if they disagree with it or anything.
Interesting.
Yes. We recently had an episode that we posted on TikTok. It's sort of a 2-part episode. The first part is a song called Wacky Zoo. And it's basically just a song. It's kind of a song for kids where it's kind of like, well, the cow goes oink and the pig goes cluck and the chicken goes moo. It's all animals making sounds that they don't make. And it kind of feels and sounds like a song that might actually exist. And then our very next episode of ABC Parenting was us issuing a very somber apology for confusing children and in some cases adults about animals making sounds that they don't actually make. Obviously this wasn't a real apology, but on TikTok, there are no less than, I would say, 800 comments on there of people saying, is this satire? Or people just straight up believing that it's real and, kind of mourning the place that we've come to in this country where you can't.
Yes, I saw those.
Yes.
It's so sad that everything you do these days offends people. Okay, let's take a step back.
But I cannot tell you how much joy I get out of both of the comments of like, this is funny and I like this, and I am so outraged and by the state of this country and wokeness and everything. It's very fun.
It's interesting.
I got texts from friends after that episode.
That
Did this really happen?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you
So
do
funny.
realize that
I mean, yes,
They do, but that's the beauty of it. We take it so seriously.
Yeah.
You do. That's
People
exactly
get
it.
Mhm.
you do.
That's
Like,
yes.
that is talent. I mean, you obviously actors, right? You guys have that talent, but I could never keep the straight face you guys do. And
I don't know. We have a homework video of Bree eating Ben & Jerry's in a closet during homework that would say otherwise. But there's some satire involved in Bree Tucker. But I want to get more into like the comedy and actually the topics you cover and how you make them funny right after this. It's funny because my daughter's friends actually listen to this podcast. So hi,
They
Lauren,
do?
if you're listening. Yes,
Lauren does. I'm not surprised.
She listens. Lauren actually recommends it to the high school librarian too. So thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate you for that. No, there's high school drama going on. And I'm sure like also with your comedy and stuff, like you take things that happen in your own life and you put it in your show.
Yes.
But like the drama that comes in, especially for parents, is that you have to try not to get in the middle of your kids' issues. And that is something that like I've had to remind myself over and over again. This is their issue, not ours. So Bree and I are still the best of friends, and our daughters can have whatever relationship they desire. Yep. Whatever they want to do.
That's such good advice.
Totally.
Yeah, I always tell everybody you need a ghost of parenting future in your life. Someone that has kids that are at least 5 to 10 years older than yours. Because you need that person to tell you, I remember doing potty training with my kids because my kids are 15 months apart, so they're really close. So I decided to try to do everything together, and I was trying to potty train both of them. And I just remember being like, "It's never gonna happen." And one of my friends that had kids that were in high school was like, "Listen, they are not going to go off to college in diapers. You're good. It's going to happen. You don't have to push it. It's okay."
So
So sometimes you need that.
I want to know about your guys' comedy writing process. The things together?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Really quickly, I'm going to give my dog an empty jar of peanut butter to distract him for the rest of this interview. Give me 10 seconds.
That is totally fine.
Okay.
I think we should leave this in too because it's highly relatable.
Yeah.
It would be, that's what I would be like if I had a toddler, actually. Like, hold on, let me give my toddler insert item.
An empty jar of peanut butter.
An empty jar of peanut butter.
Actually, a jar of peanut butter, like with a little bit at the very bottom, so they can just work at it.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I'm actually going to steal that idea, Bree.
See, so they get to work at it and figure it out. Oh goodness. Okay.
Okay. He is he's working away at the jar, so we're good.
Aww.
Sometimes dogs are more high maintenance than kids are.
I was going to say, is that your second kid?
Yes, this is. Yeah.
Was the dog first?
The dog was first. And you know what's funny is I remember hearing before we had our son Theo that like when you have a pet, as soon as you have a kid, your pet will go from feeling like your baby to feeling like your pet. And I was like, oh, there's no way that's going to happen. Like Sid, our dog Sid is like our little our sweet baby. And then like the moment we brought Theo back from the hospital, I'm just like, oh, you're a dog. You're just my pet.
Did Theo get a little sad and clingy?
You mean our dog Sid?
Sorry, Sid. Yes,
yeah,
not
yeah.
Theo. Oh my God, sorry. Yes, Sid. Did Sid get a little sad and clingy? I find little dogs are a little more.
Luckily, Sid has always been clingy, so
okay.
He kind of stayed consistent with his personality.
Okay,
yeah.
there you go.
I have to say though, when you get your kids older and they like are less at that baby cute stage, your pet then becomes your baby again. Because my dog, I mean Bree's dog as well, they're our babies.
Well,
like
again, we have teens. We're at that stage like where Tina Fey did a bit where she was like, you know, when you have a teen, especially a teen daughter, it's almost like having that like office crush that's not interested in you, but you're interested in them way more. And it's like, hey, we're gonna have dinner. Like if you already eat, you probably aren't even hungry. You probably don't even like it's pizza, but you know you probably have plans. So like, never mind, it's okay.
That's pretty much how
That's
it
really
is.
funny.
That is literally how it works with my kids most of the time. Like, hey, we're gonna go out to eat. Like, you can go anywhere you want, and they'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna stay home. Sure, I'll take you. I'll get you anything you want. Anything you want.
Anything, whatever.
So on this podcast, we have a bad case of shiny object syndrome. So you will find that a lot. So going like back to your writing process. So like, what is your guys' writing process like for ABC Parenting? Like, how does it work, and how do you come up with the ideas?
Yes.
Well, so this is sort of the weird thing. I wrote all the episodes of ABC Parenting. Stephanie is a writer too, and she's a great writer. And she's written short films, and, you know, screenplays and stuff. I basically just kind of hammered out 50 episodes, in a pretty quick amount of time. Yeah, like but they're all sort of short episodes, so it doesn't take too long to write them. The weird thing was that a different friend of mine was originally going to play the role that Stephanie played, but she got pregnant like shortly before we were going to film ABC Parenting. So that was when I reached out to Stephanie, because I just remembered how amazing she was in every single scene that she was in Mad Men.
So that's how you got in his head there, Stephanie.
Yeah, that's really what it was. Anyone who watches Mad Men, like, she plays Meredith, one of Don Draper's secretaries in the later seasons. And I swear to you, every scene she was in, I was just like, you're just so drawn to her. And so I kind of threw a Hail Mary and thought, is there any way that you would want to be flown to New York and shoot all 50 of these episodes in 4 days? And Stephanie said, yeah, I know. Yeah, it was crazy. Stephanie said yes. And so she's great in them. But I think right now we're maybe planning on doing sort of a second season of ABC. And Stephanie has been sending me some ideas for the episodes.
Okay.
It's very fertile ground for comedy because, as I said, there's just an endless amount of parenting topics that you can satirize.
I'm wondering, do you guys like just carry around your phone with you and like make a note on there every time, like, okay, exploding diapers. Okay, like whatever. Just
yeah, I think I texted you, Arthur, last week. Pre-K, TK, kindergarten. Like, what's it all mean?
Oh my gosh,
yes. That's an idea for an episode.
Yes, there's so many. Yes.
Kinder prep. Kinder prep's a term they use too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what's kinder prep?
Yeah, what's kinder prep versus preschool versus daycare versus, like you said, like all the oh yeah, it'll make your head explode.
Yeah, Arthur, you said like one that I had never heard of too, and I'm like, wait a minute, why are there so many things that all mean the same thing, or are they different? And
3K.
I haven't heard of 3K.
What's 3?
3-year-olds? I'm guessing.
I think it's like It's pre-K, so it's for 3-year-olds specifically. It might be a New York specific thing. I'm not sure.
That could have actually been at my son's school. I think they had 3K, and then Kinder Prep was the one they went to right before kindergarten, but it was all preschool.
Well, and then you also think about kindergarten, and you're like, what the hell is kindergarten? Like, what is that?
And then, you know, if you want to further blow your mind, a lot of states don't even require kindergarten. So
really?
Yeah. So it's optional. Or so it's just it's a lot. It's a lot of craziness.
So you get your ideas obviously from everyday life, and like I'm wondering about satire, because as like I have tried to do satire and it just does not work out. Like, what are your rules kind of when you're writing satire? Like when you have this idea, how do you then make it into this skit that is actually funny? Like, what's your process in that?
Here's what I imagine you doing, Joanne, while he's talking. Tell me how I do that.
No. No, I'm
Well,
very curious as to what goes on.
So I think the key to satire, in my mind at least, is playing it straight. So, for example, when you think of The Onion, The Onion is a satirical newspaper, but they present every headline as though it's actual news. And so with ABC Parenting, we present every topic as though it's a very serious thing. So, for example, an idea that I just had recently was, when babies are born, they're pretty much always crying, right? So I thought it's funny to think of that as an embarrassing thing for the parents, that the very first moment of your child's life, they're crying. So how can we prevent that from happening? So to kind of sort of present crying as though it's an actual problem with a straight face. And there's an episode idea right there. There's another one that we have about an episode that we've done is about baby proofing your home. And we just say that the best way, because there's a lot of stuff out there, actual parenting guidelines and tips about baby proofing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, what would be a funny way to kind of satirize baby proofing is just to, you yourself have to dress up as a baby and roam around your apartment and stick your finger into outlets and start eating plants. That is the best way to baby proof your home.
I need to see that episode. I haven't seen that one.
So it's basically just taking any topic and thinking of a dumb version of the idea, but presenting it with a straight face. That's all that it is.
Yeah, I have to say the first one that comes to mind is when your child starts calling the teacher mom, the one you did on that one.
Ooh.
Yes.
There were paternity tests involved. They were asking husbands if they were having an affair. There was like all of those things.
Yes, exactly. I feel like everyone has had the experience. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I sometimes accidentally called my teacher mom. So the idea
it's a thing.
It's just a very innocuous moment that everyone experiences. But I feel like in the world of parenting, a lot of times, you might be told that even the smallest of things could be a huge problem that might forever damage your child.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's very omnipresent. And so if we took one of the most innocuous moments of just accidentally calling your teacher mom, but pretending like it's the world's biggest catastrophe. And then you just go from there and you just have, creative fun with it.
So I'm curious, with you both as parents, is there a situation in either of your lives where your kids have done something and you've seen it as kind of a catastrophe and had that parental fear that you then used humor to deal with? And I want to hear your question of that right after this. Okay. All right. So has either of you ever come into an experience with parenting in your own life where you have been really, really worried about it and you've used humor to deal with it instead of like going on like this anxiety rampage?
Well, I have one that comes to mind because it just has been happening very recently. And that is that my son, who's just turned 2.5, he's started to become scared of monsters at night before he goes to bed, which, I don't know where he even got that. Maybe it was something that he saw on TV that he accidentally watched or something. But whatever it was, he's been scared of monsters. And I was doing a little bit of research and learning that apparently you're not supposed to say monsters don't exist. You have to in some way kind of validate their reality that they believe that they're at least scared of monsters. So what I decided to do was to use humor to kind of diffuse that situation. And the way that I did that was by turning everything into a monster. So in other words, Theo has a wall monster in his room and he has a stuffed animal monster. Like we literally bought him an animal that looks like a monster, and he has a nose monster and a chin monster and just everything. There's the chair monster over there, like almost just labeling everything as a monster.
So he kind of giggles now.
So he giggles. I mean, I think that's partially me knowing his sense of humor. I do think that kids, from just about any age, I mean, at least like I remember Theo was laughing and stuff when he was like 5-6 months old. So a way that you get to know your child is through their sense of humor. And I just kind of had this thought, I kind of think that he'll find it funny if everything is a monster. It could have totally backfired. It could have been like, now I'm
all of a sudden he doesn't want to move anywhere in the apartment.
Happening.
Yes,
but I think
I think to label everything as a there's our ukulele monster, this monster, that monster. It just kind of diffuses the power monsterdom in general.
Yeah, totally. What about you, Stephanie?
So, kind of similar to Arthur, like we've noticed over the last 3 years that with our son is fully into if we make anything he doesn't want to do into a game of some kind, we can get him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to those like big things like the potty training, and we're currently gearing up to transition him into a big boy bed, things like that. If we, like my husband and I, like amp it up and get him pumped and make it the biggest, most exciting, fun thing ever, he's all about it. Potty training was the easiest thing we've ever done with him.
Oh, wow. That is not something that's ever said usually by parents.
So jealous
that's
of
amazing.
That. Okay, if you guys haven't done a potty training episode, that's definitely
you
coming
go.
in the future, it sounds like.
We do indeed have a
potty training. Yeah.
Okay, I need to watch that one.
It's basically potty splaining. It's combining the concept of potty training with the concept of mansplaining, where you're essentially mansplaining but to your toddler.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
Stephanie,
amazing though, Stephanie. That's amazing.
I have to tell you, I have some of the best pictures of my kids in the weirdest positions when we transition them to a big kid bed. Like, because now they can get up, right, and play, and they can get.
Oh,
So I would
yeah.
have like pictures of like my son, like his body was half under the big kid bed with the legs out and a toy in each hand, and he just fell asleep there on the floor like spread eagle. Like, you have some
Well,
entertaining
you know-
times coming up.
Yeah. Wish us luck. I mean, we know it's going to be tough, but we also we're very concerned about the potty training too, and that ended up going so well. So we're hoping for the same outcome with this. But we'll see. But we are going to make it the most exciting thing ever, and staying in your room is the best.
Wow.
That is something that definitely needs to be
I can
reinforced.
see right before you guys introduce the bed, you go in the kitchen and are like, okay, black cup of coffee. I need as much caffeine as I can to be amped up for this.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Oh my God, absolutely. But it works for him.
That's great.
When we show excitement, he gets excited.
I think
Yeah.
that you and Arthur picked up that's the right. Every kid has a different type of motivation, different things
Mhm.
that get them going, and when you can and sometimes it'll shift as they get older, but when you can find it, wow, it's like that magic wand.
It is
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, what's coming up for both of you that you're excited about? And Stephanie, I'll ask you first. What are you excited about that's coming up?
Sure. I'm in post-production on a short film that I produced back in
that's
March.
exciting.
Yeah. It's stars this lovely actress Claire McNulty. If you guys ever watched the show Search Party, she's wonderful. She directed it, wrote it, and is starring in it. And my writing partner and I produced it for her. So we're working on that. It should be done. Do the festival circuit with that, and hopefully it'll be out for everyone to see next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's exciting. That's a huge thing. Arthur?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm we've been gaining a lot of traction with this whole ABC parenting thing. So I am working on writing a second season of it,
Yay!
which is very exciting. And also, my friend, this isn't really official yet, but maybe by the time this airs, it will be. But we're talking about I used to collaborate with my friends on a fake takeout menu called Fuds, and we have a book that we wrote called Fuds: A Complete Encyclophedia. And it's basically that I would say sort of satirizes the world of food and cooking.
Nice.
And I think that we're going to try to come out with a sort of a monthly menu via Substack, like a fake menu that we could email to people.
That'd be funny.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but if you look up, there is a book called Fuds that you can buy on Amazon and maybe other websites and stuff. But that's all that I have coming up right now.
I'm making a note, man. I'm looking that up.
We'll put that in our show notes. And
Awesome.
thank you both for being here with us today. Please, listening right now, go check out ABC Parenting on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And we will